good. So we got Mr. David Canales on the line right now. Welcome to the Two Bs in a Pod podcast. Yeah, we're just excited to have you on, man. It's been a while. I think the last time I saw you, probably was college days, and you literally looked the exact same. So I don't know what you're doing, but please continue it. And we're excited for you. All the alumni is super excited for you, and what an opportunity. So if you guys didn't know, David Canales is the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. New position. You got hired, 2 months ago or a month ago?
Shoot, yeah, like 2.5 months ago. It happened fast.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
And then we just want to, you have a unique story, right? I mean, we were doing research on you, and we obviously know a little bit just from knowing you personally, but from the El Camino days, from Carson High, what was that like to get the SC job? Because that's where you started. That was your first major break, right? It was what year was that? Like 2008, 9?
Yeah, that was the winter of '08. I was substitute teaching at Narbonne High School.
Wow.
And I had '06, '07, '08. I worked high school camps for Pete Carroll at USC. And then I was just around the program. They opened their doors, come in, hang out. You know, I'd been in LA, grew up there, coached there. So I kind of had my ear to the ground.
Yeah.
As far as recruiting goes and different things like that. So, just had so much fun just running around the field with coach and that style of football.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to take, to the high school, the junior college, was to bring that kind of juice.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting teaching, substitute teaching, and Pete called me up and said, "Hey, I got this limited earnings job. It's in the weight room, but we'll get you around football, and
just get your
and
foot
you'll be
in the
able
door.
to, just soak it all in and sit with." Yeah. And so I took that job in '09. I was there for a year, and then he took the Seahawks job.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was working at SC for Lane Kiffin and Ed Ogeron for about a month while coach was figuring out his staff in Seattle. And then they had a spot for me, and they took me up there, and I was there for 13 years.
Wow. Awesome. So what was that call like? I mean, that's life-changing, right? 1 year at SC, and then, hey, you want to come on the Seahawks? Crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. So like, there's a quick story I like to tell. So I was sitting in Heritage Hall, which is USC's football facility before they had the new one, and I was sitting in there. We were having a recruiting meeting with Lane Kiffin, the new SC head coach, Ed Ogeron, and the staff.
Mm-hmm.
We're watching El Camino College play College of the Canyons from a year before in the playoffs. So this is after my first year at SC. So I'm sitting there watching a playoff game, and I can see I'm on the sideline with the visor, shorts, running around with a clipboard.
Yeah, the whole bit.
Describing. And I had just accepted a job to go to Seattle. So it literally happened within a year, where I was junior college, USC for a year, got to the NFL's quality control, and then kind of, started just soaking it all in and taking as much information as I could from there.
What a jump. I mean, going from, El Camino College, which I'm sure had some good players, and to all of a sudden going to the NFL where everybody's an absolute stud. I mean, that's got to be an incredible jump, I would assume. Now, it's funny, you were talking a little bit earlier about like Pete, the way he kind of ran his thing was kind of loose. It always feels like he's having a good time out there coaching. I feel like, did that kind of rub off on you as well too, that it was like kind of fun, enjoyable doing it too?
Yeah. And I don't mean to correct you, but so the perception is that it's loose, but I think the challenge that people don't understand about the way we do football, the way that I've done football with Pete for 14 years, and what I'm also introducing to our offense here is, it is so much more challenging to really dive into what you're learning, your craft. First of all, it's the pros.
Yeah.
And then to find a way to teach it so well, to engage the players so well that you can enjoy it, go for it.
Yeah.
And also hold that that tension that you feel, like, the tension you feel, you're watching some teams, it looks very serious,
Mhm.
and very like, oh man,
Don't
everybody's
mess
so
up.
tight.
Yeah.
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 We don't take it any lighter. We just understand we're going for it. We're trying to squeeze every drop of life out of this thing,
Yeah.
like from the football side to the personal, the social side of it, like enjoying each other's company here. And then like whatever time we have, like diving full into like marriage, family, friendship when we can. And just like, that's what's so infectious about Pete. It's not giving up something for another. It's let's get it all.
Yeah.
I want it all. I want to feel all of life. So
Yeah, I guess the term loose wasn't so. It does seem joyful though. It seems like you guys are really enjoying what you're doing. That it's not just a
yeah,
job; it's actually a way of life.
no
And it's
doubt,
enjoyable, and so no, I think
no
that's
doubt.
awesome. And like I said, what a jump you went through. I've substitute taught myself, and so if anyone called me up and said, "Hey, I got a job for you, not doing substitute teaching," I'm going to jump at it now. Let alone a college job, working around football, like you were saying, and so that's kind of cool. It's sort of like, I work in restaurants too. It's sort of the guy who you have doing the washing the dishes, who eventually becomes
Yeah.
the manager. You know what I mean? You can work your way up
Yes.
as long as you're around the right people and doing the right things. But I mean, yeah, that's got to be amazing. I mean, you go from, like I say, college level guys to the pros. What was the biggest difference? Is it like everyone says, the speed? Is it just that these guys are better prepared? What's the biggest difference going from that level to that level that you saw?
Yeah, I think it's the amount of information. And had a coach early on, Jeremy Bates. He was our offensive coordinator at USC. Then I went with him. He was the offensive coordinator in Seattle my first year. So I got to spend 2 years with him. And the one thing that he told me about the pros is these guys respect information. So they don't care how old you are, young you are. There's going to be a time in a practice, a guy's going to jog out of the huddle and say, hey, it's such and such play. What do I got? And if you can say, hey, you got a hitch. Hey, you got the comeback on this one. You got the shallow cross. And you can give them that information. You're helping them do their job well. Like that's all they care about. And so I really, I heard him on that, and I just studied my butt off because I knew those opportunities were going to come, and that's my chance to really, develop a relationship with Brandon Stokely, and be able to learn from him as I'm helping him learn our offense. Doug Baldwin early on, some Russell Wilson, it's a young guy, just being able to be a resource. Always wanted to help these guys have a great career and be successful. Then they feel covered, and then it never mattered really, like, that big transition of experience because they knew you had the information.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I just got a flashback. Gosh, how many years ago we played together? We played together as Usa Pacific, and
Cougs?
I think I went from tight end to receiver, and you got to learn three positions, right? I had no idea what I was doing, so I was out there. We were in spring ball, and that's what I remember. Just flashback came to me. I'm like, DC, like, dude, what do I do here? And you knew everything. Like, just what you're telling me now is what you did for me. But yeah, it seems like that obviously carried on to later in life. And how was it? You mentioned Russell Wilson. How was dealing with that? Because I feel like what Carol and what you do obviously is it's more than just football, right? There's so many pressures in social media. How do you deal with that? Because everything, they're under a microscope, right? They're just, people are waiting for them to fail. What kind of pressure is that, on and off the field?
Yeah, I think the way that we capture our players, the way that I'm trying to capture our players here, is to paint a vision of what's possible,
Mm-hmm.
of what they can become. And I think that if you partner your vision with the player, especially when you got such a high achieving player like Russell,
Mm-hmm.
or guys who have a high value, and really can see where they could go, the possibilities, um, and when you're able to come alongside of that and to have a joint vision, I think that's when it really becomes powerful, because then you're not really concerned about what you can't do necessarily, or what other people think you can or can't do or should or shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're so locked into what can be.
Yeah.
and so locked into, okay, so then what are the barriers? What are the hurdles, obstacles that are keeping me from going there? Okay, well, let's attack this one here. And it's in multiple areas, but that's kind of been the secret sauce really with Pete, and what he really passed on to myself and a bunch of other young coaches and older coaches, was to talk to Baker, talk to Kyle Trask, and say, okay, where are you? Where were you? Where are we going?
Yeah.
And then to just give them some like actionable steps. And then once they know like you're a part of their vision, you're integral to their success and you're there for them, they can feel that trust factor. Then like the rest of the stuff just kind of like fades away,
Yeah.
and you mentioned social media. Like one of the things for me, as far as whether it was social media, whether it was like fans reaching out, of course I have family and friends. Hey, can you get this signed for Russell, this or that? I would just respectfully tell people like, hey, all due respect, like I want to create a safe place for these guys to come when they're here.
Yep.
They never feel like I want something extra from them other than for them to just get better today.
Yeah. Yep.
And so hopefully I've been able to do that with guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed. I was going over your career, basically all your different, coaching, positions that you've done. I saw that there was a time where you were teaching, tight ends. Another time it was wide receivers, quarterbacks. Do you feel like you had to kind of change for any particular position? Was there anything that like a position presented a different challenge, maybe that you weren't quite not ready for, but that was different than, say, going from like a quarterback who has to learn a certain thing to tight ends, for instance, right?
Yeah. Oh, every time. Yeah. I mean, here I am again, right, doing something that I don't have a clue how to do other than watch.
Yeah.
Other than watching a bunch of guys who have done it really well.
Well, I think you do have a clue because, like you said, you've worked with all these different positions, so I think it does help with.
Right.
You're not just a guy who's only worked with quarterbacks, so you're just thinking about, okay, what's the quarterback got to do? I think you're probably thinking about other things, and I'm curious about that. When you're like writing up plays, is there a particular position? Is there something you start with and then build off of, or is it really just sort of a overall idea? Like, I'm curious how you begin with like creating a play or an offense.
Sure. Yeah. The overarching theme for our offense is things that start out looking the same and end up different. So, and it all starts with the run game. And so if we can get into our core base formations and our favorite runs out of those formations, then a whole like spindle, like a whole root system of offense kind of comes off of these different runs that we have. And they're really our lifeblood. And then that's where the misdirection, that's where the slight edge comes into play. Like, can we make it look just alike right before the snap? And then it could be any of like 20 different things that could happen out of this play. So it starts there, starts with the run game. And then of course that's for like first and second down offense. And then when you get to third down known passing situations, then you have a starting point pass play. And then off of this route, it goes in, out, up, and it stops. And we got to protect all angles of the cut to keep a defense from really honing in on tendencies. So that's kind of the way that it is. And you cycle through like, depending on who the opponent is and who the players are. But going back to like the reason, like, talking about with each position that I went into to learn, I went in with the understanding that somebody knows it better. A coach knows it better. A veteran tight end, Greg Olson, knows it far better than I could have ever known it. So then like just gravitating like beware, you remember like Frankie Tapia.
Yeah.
He's a Zeus Pacific wide receiver.
It's a beast.
Comes
6'3",
in
220, fast. He shouldn't even been there. But we got him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he comes in. I had been there. He comes in with this fabulous wealth of playing wide receiver. And so I just like followed him around. I was like, show me that again. Just like, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing in the coaching world. I just like, tell me how you say that again. What are you telling this guy on the backside of this? And now it's like the part that I geek out on even now is like, I hope I never lose this part of, even as I'm in this role, I hope I never lose this, like 24, 25-year-old high school, junior college coach going to a clinic and listening to, you know, um, one of the greatest of all times talk about spread pass game, and just like even here, just like with the offensive line coaches who've done it forever, like they start talking about runs, and I'm just like, okay, so then what goes with this? All right, then we run this off of this play. So I hope I never lose that wonder as far as his career goes, that I'm always around people who just know something better about something
Yeah.
than I do.
Well, it's
Being able to
humility
learn.
of what it is, and I think players gravitate toward that because no one wants to be, a coach that knows it all. You know what I mean? They want that humility. I think that goes a long way. You mentioned social media. I know we spoke earlier about that. I thought that was pretty cool. Like on a personal level, you don't do it, nothing. And I thought that was pretty powerful. Your reasoning, and I feel probably a lot of people could benefit from that. But can you just kind of go over that again? Like, what is your reasoning for it? And I thought it was pretty powerful. It's kind of cool. It's rare,
Yeah, so I have a coaching handle on Instagram that I keep pretty broad, and keep it basically to like, just high level motivational quotes, different things like that. But um, for me, one of the reasons I don't get too far into the personal side of social media is, again, I'm dealing with these players who have all that pressure coming at them all the time, and then also they're trying to create a brand and an image, and I never I never want who they're selling to get in the way with who I'm talking to every day, and not buying into what the public says they should be, or what they're trying to put out there, but to just say who are they today, and because the truth is, like me, you, all of us, we all change seasonally with our age, with our family dynamics, friendship dynamics, professional dynamics. I mean, here we are starting this cool podcast, and like just launching, like you guys are launching into this whole world that you're going to, learn so much about, but like you're going to be different in 6 months because of the experience and exposures you guys
Yeah.
have had here.
Yeah,
So,
Totally.
I think all of those factors, I just want to be able to be fluid with people as they grow and change, where I'm not having to, base it on what they're trying to show everybody they are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with Brandon. Your humility is coming off. Also, your ability to communicate. I think these are two really important things. And you did mention earlier. I heard a couple names. You said Brandon Stokely and Doug Baldwin. I always find that a lot of times the best students are like the best teachers because they're showing you a lot of things, and also the way they learn. Did you ever? Would you say like maybe one of those guys or other guys? Did you ever have someone who really absorbed knowledge really, really well, who was just like the best student of the game, maybe not necessarily the fastest, or best athletic, but someone who really just put in the work and was able to learn?
Yeah, I mean, I think all those guys, they knew who they were. They had their game, but then they were always like digging, and like Russell was always digging. He was always watching film, wanted to pick up any way he could find an edge. Coach Carroll was the same way. Like he's like, who are we studying this off season? Like let's get better, and let's get smarter, and Coach Bowles here, just being on the job is, like he's putting us in different situations now, like that are just going to be better for the team. He's picking my brain about how we structured practices and seeing if something makes sense to incorporate, and knowing that he's got his own plans. So I think it's a trait, that a lot of successful people have, is they have this like this unending curiosity for growth, where it's never just like, hey, this is just what I do.
They're never
You know?
satisfied. I find that in a lot of
Yeah.
successful people, there's never enough. It's you can always learn. And then one thing we want to go more to your current position and go into that. But one more thing I wanted to go back in your past a little bit was the Super Bowl. How cool is
Yeah.
that? I mean, you had a couple of them, right? What was it, 2?
Back to back. Yeah.
Yeah. And how was it to win a Super Bowl? I mean, that is just insane.
Yeah.
How cool is
Yeah.
that? Like, well, what was that like? I mean, that's the pinnacle,
Yeah.
right? And how old were you? You were got to be what, your late 20s, early 30s?
Yeah. I think the first one, I think I was 31.
31. And how
when
was
we
that?
won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, how was that?
Wow.
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, what I remember was dominant defense, dominant run game,
Hmm.
and a really young and hungry team. Like
Yeah,
it kind of felt like if it wasn't, the schemes that worked, it was like just this youthfulness and this connectedness
yeah,
that I experienced like firsthand. It was like this long body type of mentality where even into the approaching the Super Bowl week, like we were so grooved on our routines about what we did every day. It was just like it wasn't superstition, but it felt like surreal. Just how it was just like we're all locked in.
yeah.
Everybody's here. Nobody's late for curfew. Like we got all these checklists, everything ready. Yes, we got it. We got a ball and a whistle, coach. We're ready to go. Like it was just like such a finely oiled machine.
Hmm.
Even going into the second Super Bowl where we lost to the Patriots, it felt the same way. Throughout the season, we had some ups and downs, but the close games we won because it was guys who just decided, okay, enough's enough, guys. We're going to go and finish this game, whatever it takes.
Hmm. So I feel like you created that family. Like everyone talks
Yes.
about family and connection to the players, but I feel like Pete, he really captured that of what it's really
Yeah.
like to love someone on the field and off the field. And I feel like we at Azusa Pacific, that's what we were taught. I mean, I'll never forget when they were doing the recruiting process, Coach Shinnick, Peter Shinnick, and Santa Cruz like sat down and prayed with me. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
all right, that's kind of cool. That it's different, right?
Yeah.
How was that? I know your faith is important to you. How is that in that world? Because you got to be kind of PC now. You know how it is. How is
Yeah.
that? Is that a prevalent part of what you bring, and how do you navigate that? Because some players obviously aren't going to be on board with it. Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah. I think, if I'm being honest, like a lot of my focus for doing this job is that the a lot of times the best way that I can be a good example for who Christ is to do my job really well,
Yeah,
first and foremost. So a lot of times, if people think that it's all about spreading the gospel of Christ, a lot of times no one will hear the gospel if you're not good at your job, because what they respect first and foremost is that you do good ball.
your action.
And
Yeah.
so it's pretty interesting. It's like, you know, I've had conversations about faith with a lot of players
Hmm.
over the last couple of years, and all of them stemmed from a relationship of football where
Yeah.
they trusted that I was going to give them the right techniques and drills.
Yeah.
And then the other things kind of came in as a byproduct. There's a trust factor
Yeah.
that was established first and foremost, because sometimes I think that Christians get a bad rap um, in our profession or places where they say, "Is he going to be tough enough, or is this or that?" It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
let me show you first and foremost. I know we have a job, and I respect this job. Let's do this. And by the way,
I'm
these other
also this.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and so I think that's the best way to kind of lead by example. And but it's a challenge. It's a challenge because just in any area, it's a challenge to keep my language the right way. Because
Yeah.
just like football, classic football coach, I got a lot of that in my background too, and it's just like, all right, that's not the language I want to be using.
Yeah.
In front of these guys, and to show them like there's a better way to do this. There's a better way to communicate. So for sure, it's been challenging.
Yep. And then, so now, obviously, Tampa Bay, the quarterback situation, that's got to be obviously some tough shoes to fill. I mean, one of the greatest of all time. How's it?
Who are we talking about? I don't. Was there a guy there?
Talking about from San
No.
Mateo,
TB12?
Tom Brady. Obviously, you're coming into that situation. What do you tell your guys? I mean, it's a really unique situation, right? I mean, well, what is it like in the quarterback room, and with the full offense? I mean, obviously they want to have their own identity, right? I mean, that's the whole What are you preaching to these guys in the meetings?
We're just trying to learn the system, and it's a really good system, and it requires a point guard who's going to make great decisions with the ball. This offense is very quarterback friendly, so if you throw it to the first open guy and you get us to the right run, you're going to have success in this offense, as long as you take care of the ball. And then the talent of the quarterback then takes us where we go as far as like, you know, winning by whatever you need to win, 1 or 2 points versus winning by 10 points. There's different plays within a game that certain guys with the level of talent can make and some guys can't. But the offense in general is just a really well balanced, smart offense that allows us to have success, which is what I came out of in Seattle, and to try to always have a chance to play for a division title, to give us a chance to play at home in the playoffs. That's the goal, and that's kind of where I came from, and what I'm hoping to just play my part here with the team that is in the rearview mirror, has won a championship and played great defense and offensive football. So, so for us right now, it's just about learning the language. But yeah, certainly, getting on the job, and like Tom Brady's my favorite player of all time. So like
Same.
he's just come, yeah, yeah, and he's just, I'm leaving college. He's just coming on the scene,
Yeah.
early in his career, and to be able to watch him and follow him and missed him by a year, like just crazy, how that all worked out. But like, you know, also knowing that Kyle got to spend some time just sitting there watching and
Oh
seeing what he
man,
did.
yeah,
And,
that's got to be priceless.
I would have killed to be a fly on the wall in that room, and
You talk about learning from experience. Yeah, there's not a person
Yeah.
with more experience as a quarterback in the NFL. Like, I mean, every situation that he's been in. So yeah, I get that. But it's funny you
Yeah.
talked about your offense is going to be quarterback friendly. I totally agree. Just because I know that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are going to be there. When you see a guy like Chris Godwin, I'm sure that opens up your playbook so much more. That opens up your abilities, things you can do with. From what I read, you guys just did OTAs recently, just started that whole process, and he's there showing up, leading, and doing all that stuff. Tell us what that's like. What's it like going into your first OTA as an offensive coordinator and seeing these veterans show up? I mean, that's got to be pretty awesome, right?
Oh, yeah, so exciting. And I think because when you're trying to establish and create a culture, it really means something, to me, that he's there, that he's echoing, the axioms and like just the ways we talk about our routes and taking care of the ball, and to hear him echo it and kind of walking alongside younger players, and like it's just like it means the world, and
Yeah.
um, and I'm excited for when Mike gets here too, because all these guys are pros, and these are they're voluntary workouts, and from the things that I've heard about Mike Evans, to this point, like I just know I'm going to have another advocate
Yeah.
for the things that we're going to do once he shows up, and to be able to really capture these guys, and with the goal being like, guys, I'm just going to call the plays, like you own it, like these, how quickly can I hand you the keys to drive
Yeah.
this car,
Yeah.
and but right now it's a teaching phase, and they're I think they're having a good time. They're smiling, they're running fast, and have a lot of energy out there, and just kind of getting a read on the group. It looks like the guys are excited about what we're doing.
Yeah, and you have a beast like that with the speed and the size similar to Metcalf. It just opens the playbook, up, and then you have all the other players on there. Godwin, just obviously, what does he run, like a 4.3 or probably something insane?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then how are you adjusting to moving across the country? I mean, that's got to be a big jump for your family. You have 4 kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How
4
is
kids.
that? How is the jump with moving all the way across the country?
Yeah, that's been a grind. For a while there, so my wife and kids came out. They had midwinter break,
Mhm.
so they came out for a week. So I was working, and then we'd go and just explore, and then
Yeah.
they moved back. So I went back and forth a couple times, um, and then finally they all got out here. I think it's been about a month and a half now. They've been here, finish up the school year. And I mean, it's just been a grind on my wife because normally
4
we end
kids.
yeah,
Yeah, just that.
and normally we end the season, we have like a vacation time.
Yeah.
Then we go into the off season. This year it was like interview, got the job, gone. So we kind of missed that window to really reconnect. And that's like probably the biggest thing that my wife and I feel like we've missed this season, this off season, has been just having that downtime to really recalibrate. Where are we? All
Yeah.
these kids are different. I got a 13-year-old now, is getting ready for 8th grade. Like they're all in transition. So, and she's had to carry a lot of that on her own just with the transition. So I'm really looking forward to, getting through these next couple of weeks of OTAs, doing it well, but then like just being here in Tampa and just playing, and being able to like help get the whole family adjusted to here to Tampa.
How was the interview process? I always wonder that, like, how many interviews did you go through? Like, what positions? I mean, I think you have obviously the qualification even for a head coaching job. Personally, but what was that like? I mean, how many teams did you interview with? Did you have any idea Tampa Bay was like, this was going to be your home? Like, how did that go? I always wonder that.
Yeah, so it started off with the Ravens,
Okay.
and Coach Harbaugh was awesome enough to bring me out there for an interview, and that was like a 3-step process. There was like a preliminary Zoom, then there was like a kind of a group Zoom with a couple of people from the organization. Then they flew me out. So it was like a 3-tier process where they were trying to like filter candidates. So then I got to go into the in-person interview in Baltimore. What a great organization and culture they got going there.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. And then the Tampa interview, I believe I was the last interview. So they kind of, my agent, Colin Robert, stud, just kind of, he had some people in the building here, and he was like, you got to bring my guy in. You got to bring my guy in. I'm telling you, you're going to love to hear this guy. Bring him in.
Yeah.
And he just kind of stayed on them, and he called me up probably 3 days after I got back from Baltimore and said, hey, guess what? Tampa wants to bring you in. And so
wow.
I think there's a benefit to being kind of like one of the last guys.
Yeah.
So
save the best for last.
And they've been through the grind, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, I came. So the short story there, I was here interviewing, and about halfway through the interview, Baltimore announced their offensive coordinator. So I was kind of waiting to hear.
Yeah.
So I checked the text message, and somebody was like, hey, bummed you didn't get the Baltimore deal. So I go back into the meeting room with Coach Bowles, and I said, well, Baltimore just gave that job away, so I'm really going to put on a show now. And I just, just like,
you said that in the meeting?
Off. Yeah.
Did you say, that's awesome. That's awesome.
He got a good laugh. But it was a couple days later, he brought me out. So,
well, man, Tampa Bay weather over Baltimore weather, I think you made out all right.
Yeah,
Baltimore's rough, man.
A little bit. Yeah, come wintertime, you're not going to be struggling too bad out there. So, but no, that is one of those things that I do think it's overlooked a lot, is the sacrifices that you guys do have to make as far as being away from family and just constantly being on the road and traveling and things like that. And we're, talking about different places and things like that. Are there any places in particular that you particularly like going to, playing at, like that, I'm sure Seattle's going to be one that you're looking forward to going back to, because that's going to feel like home. But are there any places that you've been to where you're like, wow, if I had to work here, it wouldn't be so bad? Are there any other spots like that you really enjoy?
Oh, yeah. That's the cool part about just playing teams in major cities, right? Like, I love Arizona. That was a great spot to go to. So much to do. The weather was always nice. In-N-Out burger.
So we get spoiled.
We don't know what it's like to live we there's no In-N-Out burger.
We got one across the street here, and we're there way too often.
As far as hiding my gut, but trust me, I hit the In-N-Out plenty. But yeah, no, that's one of those things too. Cuisine is so like different from place to place. But you're saying Arizona is a good spot. Any other spots you really enjoy, just like the atmosphere, the food, the weather?
What about Dallas?
Yeah.
You played at Dallas, right? Yeah, that's got to be insane.
Houston, Dallas, the Texas teams, fantastic. I love Chicago. I've always liked visiting Chicago, just like Rush and all the different areas down there, the eateries. I mean, just a fantastic place. Green Bay's got its like, its own touch of just like mystique and just like football, man. This is football. When you
Yeah.
go to Lambeau Field, it's pretty amazing. And then I just love the East Coast visits, like, playing, the Jets or the Giants, playing the Patriots. Being in the Northeast was always pretty cool to me. And
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, I love the town of Pittsburgh. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful place.
Really?
Yeah, I've
I
never
mean,
been. I
just
always wanted to try a Primanti Brothers sandwich, but yeah, I've heard.
oh yeah, every time. Oh yeah,
That sounds amazing.
but
Putting fries in
yeah,
the sandwich, it's over. I'm going to eat it. I want to try it, but it sounds amazing.
brilliant.
But yeah, I think that's really cool. Like you say, you're getting an experience to see all these different places, and yeah, you're working, but also once the job is done, you guys are enjoying it. It's really cool to see all these different places and cities, and I'm sure you're taking little parts of it with you. So, but that's amazing. But also, we talked about earlier, your Seattle days and like working hard over there. You also had a character by the name of Marshawn Lynch that was over there. Do you have any good stories about Marshawn? Because I've always heard everyone around this guy. There's always something that
we're Bay Area guys, and so we love Marshawn. It's fun watching him through the ranks and at Cal. And do you ever see the golf cart one where he's in the golf? That's one of my best videos I've seen of him. But what was it like? Because I hear he's just a great guy too, but he's just got a personality, just jumps out at you. What was that like?
Yeah, like I mean, without giving any private stories, but
exactly. We don't want to out Marshawn too badly here, but I'm sure.
No, but I think the thing that I came to appreciate the most about Marshawn is he was going to be Marshawn, and for me, like that, I think that meant a lot, for me as a young coach to kind of see like handle your business, show up, play hard, work hard, and be yourself, and trust that that's good enough. Like he never was going to change who he was, for the situation, or for the environment. He was going to be Marshawn, and I think that's what like I learned from him. Just being the opposite of that, and trying to like kind of get a read on the room, and try to, you just at a certain point you just say, just be yourself, just show up, just go for it, and people will appreciate that, and you'll leave a mark, which he does, wherever he goes, he just finds a way to connect. He finds a way to connect with people, and people find a way to connect with him because they kind of like know what they're going to get,
He's one of those guys, you just hear his name and you smile.
Yeah.
That's
true.
And then I've always been told, I have a lot of friends that coach, and it just seems like it's a grind, like the amount of hours you put in. What is a normal day like as offensive coordinator in the NFL? Like how many hours? Is it 7 days a week? I mean, I assume it is. Like, what does that entail?
Yeah, during the season, right now it's great. Right now we're in here early, but we're out of here by 5 or 6 p.m. And
that seems like a full day.
And it is, but coach, coach, he lets us out here half day Friday. Sometimes it's Friday off, 3-day weekends.
Yeah.
As many times as he could. And so, but during the season, it's a 7-day deal. It's 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then it tapers. But then you got travel and all that. So that 6 months is a grind, and that's where, my kids don't know any different. My wife and I just know like, hey, try to find a couple windows early in the week because the rest of the week's cooked. So if I can get home for dinner on Monday, I'll come home. I'll go home for an hour or two and then head back to the office. But like, I was there for a little bit there on Tuesday morning for a little before school, and then the rest of the week's cooked. So and I think it's because we know that if I'm not doing it, the other team's probably doing it.
Yeah.
We all kind of know like where we're trying to find an edge, and it drives us, it pushes us, and I think the scary part about it is like you get such a good reset week to week. So there's closure. You win or you lose. Bang.
Mm-hmm.
You start a new week. You're tired, but you're energized mentally because you're like, I got this new challenge, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so you feel like you can always do a little bit more, and but it never goes away. So it's kind of making sure that you realize that, but not losing a chance to like connect, with people throughout the process. That's the most challenging part.
And then, like Pete was big on creating a culture, right? And I feel like you've adopted that. I think it's been in you, since college days. And what do you do? Like, so obviously the vocal point of the offense, the quarterbacks, right? They're the point guards.
Yeah.
Do you bring them home to your family, or how does that work? Do you incorporate them in? Like, how do you create that culture? Like, how are you going to do that with yourself? Rather than like take what you learned from Pete, but make it your own. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. So for me here, like the trying to establish a culture where here is the safest place to make a mistake, right here, and
Yeah.
to know like none of us are going to be perfect. We're going to need a lot of grace. You're going to have to cut each other some slack. But just to know, like, make the mistakes here, bring it up. Let's talk about it, and for
Yeah.
guys to feel that, it's not personal. If you make a mistake, like there's not like, screw this guy, like he messed that up,
Yeah.
that it's like, let's make some mistakes. Let's figure out, okay, let's make new mistakes though. Like, let's not keep
Yeah.
making the same mistake. And that's where the part where we can challenge each other is like, let's find new mistakes to make. And that's where
Yeah.
we start to get really good, but it takes trust. And you got to show them that, like, hey, like, you're not just going to slam a guy, okay, you're out because you make a mistake, So, and again, back to the whole thing of like, but if I can paint a vision of who we're going to become, then they're not carrying the weight of don't screw up or else you'll lose. How about do these things and we will win?
Yeah.
So like the discipline of my language, even at home, I have to make sure that I'm disciplined even with my kids and talking to them to say, hey, don't do that because this is going to happen. How about do this? How could you do this better so that you can, you know what I mean? And just like continually framing it that way, framing a drill that way. Tell them what you want. Don't talk about what you don't want, because now you're focusing their attention on a negative thing instead of focusing on the outcome that you want. So that's all part of that culture building, part.
Oh no, it feels to me like you're using that from your teaching skills there. That's one of the things that we always try to do too, was frame it in a positive. I remember there was the what we called a sandwich message, right? Hey, you did this really well. I didn't care for the fact that you set the place on fire, but I appreciate that you cleaned up afterward. You put the worst thing in the middle. You do not start off with, dude, where did you get the matches? You start off with, that kind of thing there. But it's kind of funny. It seems like, it's kind of using the same ideas here. But yeah, man, I just think it's really cool, first of all, that you're taking the time to speak with us, because we do know that you're in the middle of all this stuff right now. You are a busy man. Like you say, your short days are long days for most of us. So first of all, we appreciate that time. And also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the running game, because you said that's sort of the focus, that, you like to sort of have the run and everything builds off the run. You got a guy there, Rashad White, who I foolishly dropped off my fantasy team early in the season last year in a keeper league, so I could have had him. I was really looking forward to it. What do you expect that we should see out of him this year? Is he going to take that next step up and be the main dude there? Is he going to what do you expect? What should we expect out of Rashad White?
I think the one thing that I've seen from him firsthand is just how versatile he is. So like, he's got smooth hands. He's got great vision and patience in the hole. And then he's got some really cool hidden power. And he showed that in the Seahawks game when we played them in Germany, where he can run between the tackles and get positive yards. So I'm really excited to see like how we can utilize him in different ways, getting him the ball in space, different ways. And I think that one of the cool parts is Keyshawn Vaughn. We call him Sneak. He's our two, and he's a fantastic runner. Just quick feet in the hole, sturdy build, and like he just got a real natural feel for it. So I think Rashad will learn also to appreciate what it looks like to go, and nothing falls off when sneak comes in, and we just keep rolling and keep running the ball the way we want to. But yeah, he's exciting. Rashad's really exciting to to think about how to use and see what kind of back we could have. He's a 3-down back.
Yeah.
So
No, and I think
pretty exciting.
Yeah, you're talking about Vaughn too. I think it's important, especially in the NFL. You have to have at least 2 running backs, 2 guys that you can come in. Sometimes you want to have those guys that can do different things. Sometimes you just want guys that can do the same thing but can spell each other. But it's funny you're talking about they bring different things to the table a little bit, but they're both just well-rounded runners. So that's kind of fun. I mean, it feels like you can open up a lot more with that than say a guy who's just a bruising back who maybe doesn't have the ability to cut over here and do that. So that's really cool. It sounds like you're having fun there. You got some toys to play with, Yeah.
And then this offensive line is really coming together too.
I was noticing that too. My goodness. Yeah. You guys got some beasts on that line, man. Yeah. So that's.
And then in OTAs, you got to have like a 1 and a 2, right? Like, so what is the quarterback situation now? I know you got Kyle there, you got Baker. What is that? Who's your number 1 right now?
Yeah, so we're alternating days.
Okay.
And we did the same thing all throughout OTAs and into training camp with Geno Smith and Drew Lock.
Got it.
And we're doing the same thing with Baker and Kyle. And I think the cool part is that Baker's been around a little bit. He's been on a couple of different teams. Kyle's been here, and he needs experience. He needs the reps.
Yeah.
He needs the development to see what we got.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have assumptions about who Baker is and what he's doing, and he's taken to this offense. Like he's had some exposure with this offense, and but nobody really knows what we have in Kyle. And so I think that it would be easy to just name a starter.
Yeah.
I think it's way more fun. It's way more, the stakes are higher. It's more exciting to kind of let these guys, really get after it and
earn it.
Because it brings value to your room. It brings value to your team when you have 2 guys that are really working towards something in a way that like they have to mentally both put themselves in a place of a starter. Whereas if you just cut it off, well, I know they're supposed to prepare. A backup's supposed to prepare, like he's ready to play, like he's ready to start, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
So that's been it's been a cool process so far, and that's how we're repping it right now.
That's awesome.
I think that's smart too. Competition always seems to breed the best out of people, especially in this level. And like you say, merely saying, "Okay, we're going to go with you," and you be ready. But let's face it, a lot of these guys that we're backing up, Brady and Rodgers and people like that, as ready as you could be, but probably expecting that you're going to be sitting down just enjoying the game. So. But I think that's really cool that you do have this difference now. You have this guy who does have the experience. You have this young guy who's hungry. I think that's perfect. I think that's almost the perfect quarterback situation to be in. Real quick, I do want to hit something really hard hitting here. I really want to just really punch you in the mouth with this question. What is your favorite football movie? Is there ever been a movie that you watch football and you're like, oh my God, that's the best right there?
You better say The Program.
Well, I like them all. But I'll have to say Waterboy.
Yeah, would be number 1.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
The Program, Friday Night Lights, Longest Yard.
The Replacements.
Shoot. The Replacements is hilarious. Yeah. The Last Boy Scout.
Yes.
That's a good one.
I remember. Do you ever remember Luke Winslow?
Any Given Sunday?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Is that who's in the Jamie Foxx?
Jamie Foxx. That's like Al Pacino. That was the Oliver Stone. The whole cast there was insane.
Do you ever remember our quarterback at Azusa Pacific, Luke Winslow? He'd always go there and quote The Program. You ever run into those guys at all? Any of your former alumni, like out or at games or anything like that? Or
the main 3 would be Sean Davis.
Yeah, he's is he offensive coordinator now?
He's QB's coach at University of Texas San Antonio.
Nice.
Cool. TJ Woods, who's going to be coming to visit here in a couple weeks to hang out for practice.
Where's he coaching now? Is he's been everywhere. He's at UNLV. He was the O-line coach at Wisconsin, right? I mean, what a job that would be.
Yeah.
That's
So
insane.
yeah.
And
So
then who was you
he's
said
going to
Ben
be coming out
Bies?
soon. Yeah, and Ben Bice, who's the head coach at LaSalle High School
Nice. That's
in
awesome.
in SoCal. Yeah.
But have you ever, no one's like kind of screamed your name out when you're on the field and you're like, oh my God, that's, so and so. Anything like that?
Oh man, Ed Self.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Ed?
He was a big
Ed was
defensive line. He's probably like 5'8", 300 pounds, and just a brick.
Okay.
So you saw him
My kinda guy.
at a stadium?
saw Ed and his wife, at the stadium. DC.
Yeah.
Look up.
Yeah.
Sitting there.
Yeah. Anyone yells DC, they're like, all right,
Yeah,
then
I know where that's
it's someone. And I always tell a story. I was texting with Brady Senior, the original, and I was like, "Yeah, he used to be my barber in college," because I sent him a text, and I was like, "Look who the new offensive coordinator is at Tampa Bay." And he's like, we missed him by a year," and he's like, "Maybe you'll be a lifelong Buck fan now." But we were talking a little bit. We're trying to get him on the podcast. We're going to try to get Tommy on here too. I know he's a busy guy.
A little bit.
But it'd be cool to hear the dynamics of you, the offense coordinator, and what advice he'd have for you. I mean, I'm sure that'd be a pretty powerful message. But yeah, it's almost surreal. About, you ever just kind of take it in? I know you're busy and just be like, man, I'm the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, that's pretty insane.
Oh yeah, all the time, every day. I hope I never lose that.
Yeah.
And I was like paddleboarding with my buddy Brad. I'm his barber, by the way. And
Oh, there you go. And you were a great barber, by the way.
He and he's our receivers coach, and so we're paddleboarding the other day. It's like 84. It's like 7:30 p.m. sunset, and I was like, where are we right now? Just like blown away. We should be like bundled up right now in Seattle, getting ready for practice.
Yeah.
But it's wild. And I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful. And the cool part is like the staff here, they're grinders, and they've been like covering me like left and right on stuff. So it's been pretty fantastic so far.
And he's the only guy you brought over, right? Like, did you get a certain amount of guys that you could bring over, or what? How does that work? 'Cause I know, with head coaches, usually sometimes they bring in everybody. How is it as the offensive coordinator? What are you? I mean, are you just kind of a nudge, like, hey, we should get this guy, or how does that work?
Yeah, it was the transition. Coach Bowles had a good feel for a couple of guys who had been around, and really, had high respect level for those guys, and just said he was like, I want to keep these guys. These guys are grinders, and you're gonna love them. And then he's like, these are the spots we need. And so we hired Skip Pete, running backs coach. He was in Dallas last year.
Wow.
Had two fantastic backs. And then we hired a guy named David Rye, who's been a receivers coach. He's been a couple of different positions, and he's our senior offensive analyst. And we hired from within, the assistant receivers coach is now the quarterbacks coach, Dad Lewis. He played in the league for 7-8 years.
Oh, wow.
And then Jordan Somerville was at the University of Oregon as the assistant quarterbacks coach, and I think he might be the smartest guy on our staff. So he came in, and he's been killing it and making sure stuff's right, and just brings a lot of just college football, spread offense and some cool stuff. Their OC is now the head coach at A-State, so he brings a little flavor of that stuff too around the building. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, that's what we always talk about. We're like, imagine the pressure at the NFL level, let's just say for a quarterback. But a lot of these guys in college, like Oregon, for example, or Wisconsin, we just talked about, they're already playing in front of like 100,000 people, 80,000 people. It's those guys that I always trust in the NFL. It's like, man, they've already had that pressure. Imagine being an 18-year-old kid at Wisconsin or Oregon, SC, all these big schools. It's, man, you're already prepared at a young age. Do you find that like with the bigger Division I schools, are they more apt to deal with the situation in the NFL, or does that play a part in it?
Oh yeah, big time. I think it's the starting point for a lot of those guys is just it's not too big for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially the ones who come from the major conferences, the speed of play, they're used to that. Um, and then the guys who kind of separate themselves are the ones who put in the work and learn the plays
Mm-hmm.
because they adjust quicker, they find the field faster.
Yeah.
And you're able to allow them. But I think the smarter offenses, defenses in the NFL find a way to have a bridge for how they're used to things being communicated.
Mm-hmm.
Brevity code, shortening the play calls. A lot of them haven't heard a play call from the huddle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just like if we could shorten it, if we could give them visuals, which they're used to, we'll get them to play quicker. And so that's kind of been the stress of myself and a lot of other young coaches around the league who are saying, well, why would we try to retrain them completely? Let's build off of the things, the infrastructure they have in their mind already for how to learn football, So.
And what's crazy is you're 42, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that's you're probably like one of the older coaches in the league. Isn't that insane to think about?
That's wild.
Yeah. These guys in their 30s. It's a new game now, right? I mean, you look, like you're 22. But I want to get into that too, as I feel like nutrition is such a huge part. What do you do for that? Like, how do you? I feel like Pete is in pretty good shape. He's up there in his late 70s, or how is he?
I think he's in his 70s.
How old's Pete now?
Yeah. Pete, I'm 42, so Pete's 72. I think he'll be 73 this year.
So, but that's a big part of it, right? Nutrition's always, in the last 10, 15 years, but I feel even as a coach, you need that energy. You're putting up those 16, 17-hour days.
Yeah.
What do you do for that? As far as that's got to be a staple in your life, right?
Yeah. So like you can't, once the season gets rolling, like you can't really get the sleep you need.
Yeah.
It's going to be high stress. You can't really exercise like you want to, even though part of it's moving around at practice. It's not like we're working out all day.
Yeah.
It's a 2-hour, 3-hour practice. So those three things are pretty much cooked. So really the only thing you can control is your diet. Mm-hmm. So I stay very regimented when I'm in the building, as far as like when I start my eating, I do bulletproof coffee, and then I really don't start eating until about 10 a.m.
Okay.
So then I have like a late lunch at 2, and then I'll eat like a normal dinner. And then pretty much when I go home, it's like I don't eat much at the house. So if I can stay regimented during my work week, then when the weekend comes, like now, like we go eat whatever, My wife and I, but what we've grown to is she just turned 40 yesterday.
Happy birthday.
And
happy birthday, Lizzie.
Yeah, 40 years old. And what we've grown to do though is like split the burger.
Yeah.
Get the fish tacos. There's 3 of them. Each eat one, split one. Split us out. So we've just like grown to the point where like we don't
Portion
order
control.
separate.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then that's kind of just the way we take care of it, because then here comes the cheesecake, and then like so we just kind of keep all of our portion size pretty much in control, and then structure the week. Then we feel good about, when you look back on a year, if you do that, like you end up pretty good.
It's kind of like what Tim does.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm really confused about something you just mentioned there. So you're saying you order a burger, but you only eat half of it? Like, I don't.
That doesn't register for him.
No, but you got a whole burger. So what? So wait, do you? I don't. I'm literally like I'm breaking down here. I don't. So you get a burger, right? And you just see part of it. Oh, you give it to someone. Wait, giving it to why would you give your food to someone else? I don't understand it. That's for you to eat. You earned that sandwich. You earned that burger. That's mine, right? Isn't that? Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Yes. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
I think Tim goes for 2 burgers and takes it for himself.
Hey, the other day I left 2 pieces of fried chicken for one of my coworkers. Okay, that was pretty good. I only had 6 pieces of fried chicken to myself. So I see what you're getting at there. Okay, I'm okay. Okay. Yeah.
So are moving forward. So what is the goal here? I mean, is obviously the goal is a head coaching position, right? Is that your focus, or is it job at hand now? And how do you do that for goals? Is there how do you have like a goals board, or what are you envisioning for the future, or do you even think about that?
I used to think about it a lot, and then I just found like, which is true, right? Like, okay, would I love to be a head coach? Absolutely. But like, it's I don't have like a goals list or by this time type of list. It's just like, I know we need to figure out how to run the ball really well here. I know we got to learn a new offense, so it becomes like, and it's so true. Like, and my dad always, he like preached this to me. He's like, you want to be great, make somebody else great. And that was always his deal. He was like, get behind somebody and help them become great, and good things will happen.
That's great
And
advice.
That is
Wow.
and
very
you
well
and
said.
you'll always have a job, and you'll always love your job if you just say, okay, how can I help Coach Todd Bowles be the best head coach possible? Well, I can help him by complementing the defense and the special teams by running the ball and playing that style of offense that he wants. I can help these quarterbacks by, so that's kind of like that's that servant leadership. Going back to my faith, was like, okay, servant leadership, like, well, Jesus walked around and just said, all right, where am I today? I'm in this town. What's the biggest need in this town? These people right here. Okay, I'm going over here today. I'm going over there tomorrow. And so just like taking one thing at a time. How can I serve these guys? How can I serve my coworkers? How can I serve these players? How can I serve Coach Bowles? And then I know it'll lead to great things. And like, so that's really my focus. And then I don't have to worry about all the other stuff.
That's awesome.
That is fantastic. Yeah. Once again, thank you so much for just
Yeah.
coming by and talking to us, and sharing so much of your wisdom and your journey. Like I said, it's been quite a ride for you. I think you've had some really cool experiences, met some really cool people, and done some really cool things. So
Is that a APU helmet I see over there in your right shoulder?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, damn,
This is
baby, they hooked it up.
oh man! So
Oh, that's
look at
good.
what I got one of those too.
Yeah, yours looks a little different though.
So we just ran into
Yeah.
the Nigerian Nightmare. He was at a local card show, like in our town. So I'm like, oh, I gotta go see him. But yeah, we got one of those too. I saw that in there. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
The black one is sick.
But man, thank you, DC, man. Like, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It means the world to us. We're excited for you. What an awesome opportunity. And it was great connecting with you. And we're trying to get maybe Kyle or Baker on here, and Brady, and do a kind of whole Buccaneers thing.
Yeah.
So we'd love to get those guys on there, and just, I think the dynamics of Brady leaving with his legacy and you creating your own legacy is pretty powerful. But man, thank you so much. We can't say it enough. We love you, and keep in touch. And we will be here again when you get that head coaching position.
Yeah.
Awesome,
And then you could have the whole burger.
Yes, and yeah, we'll go out for a whole burger. All right, DC, we appreciate you, man. Thank
All
you
right.
for taking out the time. I know
You got it.
you don't have a lot of time, and we appreciate you giving us your time. I know it's valuable.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Okay, all right,
Enjoyed it.
buddy. See you
All right,
later.
buzz.
All right.